We are bringing you the latest on a man sentenced to 20 years in federal prison today for distributing the drug fentanyl, resulting in the death of a 34-year-old man.
Robert Brian Mansfield pled guilty to these charges back in January. We go live to Deanne Roberts, who's at the federal courthouse with more. Deanne, the courtroom was packed today.
Exactly, Brendan and Carolyn. It was packed, but it was also filled with tons of emotion. Robert Mansfield, that's the defendant. His family was here. They were outside of the courtroom in tears before they even entered. In fact, the victim's family as well, that's 34-year-old Michael Giacenti. They addressed the court just completely distraught, ultimately seeking justice after Giacenti died of an overdose from taking fentanyl that was given to him by his best friend.
It started in the medicine cabinet and ended up on the street, or in this case, on the dark web.
A dark habit that became this family's worst nightmare. The Giacentis falling victim to a nationwide epidemic after their son, 34-year-old Michael Giacenti, died of an overdose of fentanyl. Agent in charge of the Drug Enforcement Administration says that kind of drug is a life sentence.
Those distributing drugs are purveyors of death and tragedy.
A federal judge sentenced 61-year-old Robert Brian Mansfield to 20 years in federal prison for selling fentanyl to his best friend, which ultimately killed him.
This is one death we can associate with this case. Who knows on the other side of the United States if drugs were distributed that led to other deaths. But the fact that we have this one is significant unto itself.
Cameras weren't allowed in the courtroom today. Giacenti's mother appeared distraught as she expressed the difficulty of life during the last year and a half since her son's death. She was hoping Mansfield would be given a life sentence. Giacenti's father, brother, and sister all addressed the court, his dad telling the judge his son's drug addiction started after he was prescribed painkillers for an accident while in the U.S. Air Force. In fact, Mansfield and Giacenti met while being treated for their addictions. While addressing the court Wednesday afternoon, Mansfield said he and Giacenti discovered the dark web together. He said they learned all about the drugs on the market, learned about cryptocurrencies, and how to remain anonymous. He says eventually they bought more and more drugs, sold more, and even used more, but said he never stopped to ask if his friend needed help. Mansfield recognizes what he did wrong and accepts responsibility, but the DEA says Mansfield's sentencing is a message to the entire country that this opioid crisis has to come to an end.
We will use every resource at our disposal to ensure that you face justice for sowing poison on our streets.
Both families were at court today but didn't want to go on camera. The victim, Michael Giacenti's family, released the following statement, quote, "Our presence in the courtroom today was honoring Mike's legacy, a true hero who fell victim to the opioid crisis that is sweeping our nation. As a community, we need to be educated on the signs of opiate use. We did not know the signs of a drug that would ultimately take our son and brother's life so suddenly. We hope that this case, resulting in a minimum 20-year sentence, sets the precedence for all future cases involving overdose." Now, according to the DEA, this is the first opioid distribution that resulted in death here in Charleston since the beginning of the nationwide opioid crisis. Once again, Mansfield was sentenced to 20 years in federal prison. Reporting live in downtown Charleston tonight, Deanne Roberts, Count on 2.